giant, hairy creature, part ape, part man. Indians call him Sasquatch. They believe he is as gentle as he is powerful and mysterious. He's been seen many times in the rugged mountains and deep woods of the Pacific Northwest. The encounters have not always been peaceful. Many people do not believe in Bigfoot, but a lot of people do. And some of them feel they must kill it to prove it exists.
Bigfoot. By any name, his description comes out the same. The creature is large, very large, standing 8 feet tall and weighing nearly 800 pounds. He's muscular, has little or no neck, and is bipedal, which means he walks upright, like man on 2 legs. The tracks he leaves behind tell the story. Like the creature, they are big, some over 18 inches long and 8 inches wide. The footprints show 5 toes and an imprint like any one of us would leave, except for the size. They are nothing like a bear's track. Sasquatch is apparently flat-footed and walks with a 4-foot stride, with his knees slightly bent.
We yearn for the unseen. A hollowness whispers in the deepest woods, a primal echo that stirs something old within us. Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a myth whispered into being by flickering firelight, a campfire tale spun from shadows that dance just beyond sight. But forget the lumbering oaf of pop culture. The truth that shimmers in the periphery is far more dreadful. Imagine, colossal, but not ape-like. A silhouette glimpsed through pines, impossibly tall, wrong in its proportions. The stench acrid and unnatural, a herald of its presence. Sounds, too, not roars, but a cacophony of unnerving clicks and whistles, a language older than words. They dwell in the twilight, these things of myth, unseen observers in a world on the brink. This isn't a monster movie. This is something else entirely.
The Alabama sighting. So I tried to throw in some recent sightings for this list because we've all seen the famous Patterson footage. It's cool, but good to change things up a bit. So this one was reported by an elderly couple in Claiborne County, Alabama, and was posted on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website. The witnesses stated, "My husband and I heard strange sounds for 2 nights in February of 2023 and laughed about how they sounded like the Bigfoot sounds on television shows. The 3rd night at dusk, we were in our carport looking into the woods that border our property in Helphin, Claiborne County, Alabama. We saw what looked like Bigfoot peeking around a tree at us. We watched it for approximately 5 minutes as it appeared to look at us from the left and then right of the tree trunk. I dismissed it as being a distortion within the trees and wind. Turned to go into the house and looked back and distinctly saw what could only be Bigfoot running away. I yelled for my husband and he also saw it running away. It had our hearts beating wildly and the hair standing up on our arms. There was no mistaking what we saw." At our number 9 spot, we have our first piece of Squatch footage for you. In this clip, you can clearly see a very large, hairy creature strolling through a wooded area. Now, what I like about this one is the shape of the creature. If this is someone in a costume, it's a pretty good one. It doesn't have the proportions of a human. It's very gorilla-like. This is a thick Squatch too, packing some gains in the tushy area. But also the back is massive and its head is like hunched in front. With so many supposedly real Bigfoot sightings videos, like the quote-unquote Bigfoot, rarely looks like it's carrying the weight of a massive sized hominid. Usually Bigfoot videos just look very blurry to make sense of anything too, or when you do see the creature, it just lacks the bulk that's often reported in first-hand Bigfoot accounts, just like a person in a cheap gorilla suit. But this one doesn't look human. A solid video, even if it is a hoax. At number 8, we have the Minerva monster case. In 1978, in Minerva, Ohio, the Caton family reported encountering a large, Bigfoot-like creature near their home. Their account included rocks thrown at their house and the discovery of enormous footprints in their backyard. Their dog was also mysteriously died, just mauled. This was not an isolated incident though. Several neighbors and other residents in the area also claimed sightings of a similar hairy creature around that same time, and this series of encounters became widely known as the Minerva monster case, drawing significant media attention. Jim Shannon, a former Stark County sheriff who had responded to one of the Caton family's distress calls, expressed his belief in their reports, stating that they were terrified. I will always believe them that they saw something. It's just, what did they see? At number 7, we have another recent sighting, also posted to the BFRO, this time in Wisconsin. The sighting happened on May 28, 2023. A woman had been driving down a road in the early morning in Oconto County when she spotted the creature. This area in northern Oconto County, Wisconsin, is mostly wooded with swamp near the Oconto River. As I neared the corner, I saw a black and brown large figure of a man that I thought may have been someone that broke down on the trail as it was walking south towards Peshtigo Brook Road. I stopped at the corner as I could not believe what I was looking at, trying to wrap my head around it and convince myself it was a man, as it was walking on 2 legs and had taken from what I saw about 10 steps toward me. However, there was no sound, no yelling for help or waving the arms, and no human-colored skin. It was in fact a dark black and brown figure with large legs and even at the base towards the feet. It was hairy. It was not a bear though, and it was not a human. I looked around the corner and could see in the distance down North Branch Road that a human was walking east towards me in that direction. I then looked back and the large black-brown figure went into the ditch and disappeared. I was convinced it had to be a Sasquatch. Number 6. Help, I think I saw a skunk ape. This video was posted to YouTube by Josh Highcliffe and is probably one of the most convincing Bigfoot, or in this case technically skunk ape, pieces of footage in recent years. The video was taken about 9 miles west of Tunica, Mississippi at around 6 p.m. in October of 2013. Josh had been hunting for hogs when he spotted the creature. He'd been sitting on a log waiting for the sun to go down when he heard strange noises coming from behind him, and when he turned around, he spotted this large, dark, furry creature digging out the stump of a dead tree. Now, I gotta say, I try to be skeptical when it comes to things like this. Cryptids, ghosts, whatever. But this video is pretty convincing. That looks like an animal messing around in the forest to me. Creepiest part is when the thing stands up and you see that it's way taller than you thought, and it was at this point that our cameraman was convinced that this was not a bear and decided to get the hell out of there. Number 5, Backyard Bigfoot. The following is a story shared to Reddit by user Bigfoot Watcher. Post is from 9 years back, and they wrote the following. 2 nights ago, my boyfriend went out to take the dogs out back. My one dog started barking like crazy right away. My boyfriend had a flashlight and quickly scanned the grass line where the woods start, where we normally see deer. Our house is bordered by woods. Something made him shine a bit higher, and he sees 2 eyes staring back at him, about 9 feet off the ground. As my boyfriend tries to hurry the dogs back inside, he sees the thing turn and casually walk back into the woods, like a man, with arms and shoulders. I've never seen my boyfriend so freaked out. He came inside and closed every single window and all the blinds, and refuses to let the dogs out in the backyard at night anymore. In hindsight, there have been a few instances in the past few weeks that we can't explain, like dogs' toys being down by the woods with bites taken out, but it was the placement of the toys and whatnot that makes us wonder. Also, a grunt snort noise we heard recently. My boyfriend cannot get over the size of this thing and the fact that the eyes were so high off the ground. I asked him if he thought he saw Bigfoot, and he said after a minute or so of silence, if I wasn't a believer before, I sure as hell am one now. Next on the list we have the nighttime Bigfoot. I'm not 100% sold on this next clip, but it is pretty harrowing at the same time. Check this out. So you have people filming in the woods in the middle of the night. They've obviously heard something because they're scanning the woods with their camera, trying to spot whatever it is. And then this pops up. A big, hairy Sasquatch creature with a really creepy looking face. One little touch I like about this video is that you actually see it blink. It definitely makes it more convincing. I feel like if I saw this, I wouldn't be sticking around though. After the creature trudges back into the trees, they just kind of stand there breathing heavily. But I don't know, maybe they were shocked, frozen in fear. Anyway, what do you think of this one? Let me know in the comments. At number 3, we have another account posted to the BFRO. This one happened in September of 2018 in Whitmore, California. The man described his experience as follows. I was driving up to work from Redding. I worked at a school in Whitmore, California, in Shasta County. That was only accessible from a logging road. As I was going up the mountain, I rounded a corner, and about 300 feet from me and maybe 400 feet from Tintago Lane, a tall, hairy creature, dark brown with some gray along the back shoulders, walking on 2 legs, crossed the road, which is wide enough for 2 cars to pass each other, in about 2 steps, and then was in the woods. The hair on the back of my neck instantly stood up, and I was terrified. I had my 11-month-old son in the back seat, and I drove to campus as quickly as I could. There were major wildfires in the area at this time. Maybe it was trying to get away from the fires or incredibly unhealthy smoke. Several of my coworkers on that campus have had experiences as well. Alright, this next video was uploaded to the YouTube channel Beard Card in 2012 and has since received millions of views. A group of friends had gone camping in Provo Canyon. They'd seen some deer on a hill and went to get a closer look. There they spotted what they thought was a bear. You can hear them whispering to each other in the video. I mean, like seeing a bear, that would obviously be pretty nerve-wracking as is, but then the thing stands up and once again becomes very clear that what they are looking at is not a bear. The thing is very wide. It doesn't look like it has the proportions of a human at all, at least not a regular sized one. It really, I don't know, just the idea of seeing something in the woods, you don't know what it is. This video really gets that across, and the reactions just seem genuine, like, oh, like they thought it was a bear the entire time, and then it stands up and they're like, okay, go. Anyway, coming in at number 1, we have the Harley Hoffman footage. I remember seeing this clip years ago. It was edited into an interview with Harley Hoffman, a Bigfoot explorer, researcher, enthusiast, I guess. I couldn't find the footage again until recently. This is footage that he captured. It's a pretty solid piece of footage too. You get a good glimpse of the creature. It doesn't look like just some guy in a cheap gorilla costume either. There actually looks like some musculature underneath the fur, much like the famous Patterson footage, which is why that footage is so famous. It doesn't look like just a guy in a suit. Now, there is some shaky cam going on here, but I have a hard time imagining if you actually came across a giant ape in the middle of the forest that you'd be calm enough to do some nice smooth Stanley Kubrick level of camera work, so that doesn't bother me too much.
This footage of Bigfoot is the one that started this whole Bigfoot craze. If you Google images of Bigfoot, this is surely the one to pop up. So back in 1967, 2 men were creating a short film in Northern California when they ended up capturing footage of Bigfoot. In the footage, we see him walk by a wooded area. Over the years, a number of people have attempted to debunk this footage, but none have been successful. Is it possible for it to be someone in a gorilla suit? Well, at the time this footage came out, the movie Beneath the Planet of the Apes also came out. If you look at the ape costumes used in that movie and compare it to the Bigfoot video, Bigfoot looks more realistic. People claim you can actually see the creature's muscles and such. How could someone make a costume way above its time? It's not possible. Meaning, this could be evidence of a real Bigfoot. Coming in at number 9, we have Provo Canyon Bigfoot. In October of 2012, a group of siblings were hiking in Provo Canyon when they spotted something in the woods and began filming it. Earlier on their hike, they saw some deer and wanted to get a closer look at them, so they headed up in the direction of the deer. That's when they spotted this creature. At first they thought it was a bear, but were horrified when the creature stood up on its 2 legs. They got frightened and ran out of the area. To this day, they don't know exactly what it is that they saw, but they managed to capture it on tape.
Yeah, we probably should be too close to it, huh? How cool though. Let's go.
Moving on at number 8, we have Allegheny National Forest. In 2007, hunter Rick Jacobs decided to mount a wildlife camera to a tree in Allegheny National Forest, Pennsylvania. The camera worked on a motion sensor and would take photos when triggered. He had hopes of capturing photos of bears, deers, and other wildlife. Little did he know that he was about to capture evidence of Bigfoot. So on September 16th, 2007, upon reviewing the photos on the camera, he discovered a creepy picture of what appears to be Bigfoot. However, skeptics believe that it's an image of a sick bear, but the way that it's hunched over with its back leg extended makes it look like Bigfoot. In our 7th spot, we have Marble Mountain Bigfoot. If you are a Bigfoot enthusiast, then this is another well-known sighting to you. In June of 2001, a group of teens and a leader, part of a youth group called Campus Life, were camping at Marble Mountain. The group ended up finding a weird den made out of twigs and large branches. Then shortly after, the leader, Jim Mills, noticed a weird-looking creature moving nearby. He filmed it for 7 minutes. To this day, this is the longest video footage of an alleged Bigfoot sighting. Experts have analyzed the footage and have agreed that it's not a human, and that the creature is 9 feet tall. When the Bigfoot noticed the group of people watching it, it began jumping up and down, screaming, and then it pushes a tree. It was just probably trying to scare off the onlookers. Making our way down the list at number 6, we have Lake James Bigfoot. Back in late 2019, a man named John Bruner and 3 other men went on a boat late at night scouting an area on Lake James. Apparently that night fishermen had seen something watching them from the shore, so these folks went out to investigate. That's when they started to hear weird noises coming from the cove. They turned off the boat's motor and used their night vision cameras to scope out the area. That's when they saw Bigfoot and got 121 pictures of it. The creature was estimated to be around 7.5 feet tall. At one point they claimed that the creature was just standing, swaying back and forth while watching them. After 5 minutes, the creature walked away. But again, like all photos of Bigfoot, these photos are terribly blurry. All 121 of them. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with Webcam Bigfoot. Bigfoot just keeps blowing its cover. Now it seems like he doesn't care if he gets caught. Also, let me say that Washington State is notorious for Bigfoot sightings. There have been tons of sightings over the years, so Bigfoot must have a home somewhere around there. Anyways, this time Bigfoot was caught on the Department of Transportation's webcam. The webcam was located on Sherman Pass on State Route 20. It caught Bigfoot crossing a mountain pass. Then you see it lurking behind some trees by the road. Whatever it is, it looks massive and hairy, just like Bigfoot. In our 4th spot, we have the Russian Bigfoot. Bigfoot is said to mainly live in Canada and in areas of the US, but this video may prove that Russia is also home to Bigfoots. So this footage was shot back in 2016 and features Bigfoot chasing a car. In this video you can see a black blob appear in the distance, only to then start coming closer and closer to the car filming it. I mean, the creature moves pretty fast since it manages to catch up with the car, which keeps driving away from the creature and then stopping to get more footage of it. At one point in the video, the girls are yelling to close the window and can be heard saying, "He's coming, he's running." Apparently, the creature actually jumped onto the car and broke the glass, but obviously they were not recording when that happened. So yeah. Apparently Bigfoot in Russia are super aggressive. Also, is the plural of Bigfoot big feet or Bigfoots? I don't know. Big feet. In our 3rd spot, we have the Curious Children. In January of 2013, 3 Russian children were out playing in the snow when they stumbled upon Bigfoot. This case was actually featured on an episode of National Geographic. So the kids were out following a pair of footprints to the edge of a frozen lake. Along the way, they are laughing and joking around. That's when they see a tall, dark, hairy figure in the distance. When the creature spots them, it turns and runs away super fast. The kids get scared and run away as well. They described to National Geographic that the creature was tall and covered in hair, except it had no hair on its face. The children and their parents all believe that they spotted a real-life Bigfoot. Coming in at number 2, we have the game camera. Another Bigfoot sighting in Washington state. In attempts to catch a supposed Bigfoot that had been lurking around the area, they set up a game camera hidden in a fake rock. They did this as a way to trick Bigfoot. The camera and rock were set up in a man's yard, who claimed he saw Bigfoot lurking there 9 months earlier. Well, they did capture something alright. If you look at the photo, it just kinda looks like a blurry mess, not gonna lie. But they believe that it shows an eye with wrinkles above it, part of a nose bridge, part of another eye, and a forehead. In fact, this image matches the eyewitness drawing of the creature. The photo from the game camera was placed on top of the drawing, and it lined up almost perfectly. Pretty creepy if you ask me. And in our number 1 spot, we have 911 Bigfoot. This next sighting is so creepy. A man calls 911 saying that a tall, dark figure is in his yard. In fact, the full actual call is online, available to be listened to. So the call occurred in Washington state, aka Bigfoot Central, back in 1996. The man on the phone tells the operator that someone or something is crawling in his yard. He says that his sensor light came on and he saw something run across the yard. When the operator asks him to describe it, he says that it's a good-sized man or something that looks like a man. Then he says that the creature is about 6'8" and is really big. He also tells her that the night before his dog was killed in his yard. Then out of nowhere he starts panicking, telling the operator to send someone immediately. A week later, the sheriff's office got a picture of what seems to be Bigfoot lurking in his neighbor's yard.
911, what are you reporting?
With someone or something crawling around out here.
Did you see what person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard.
With a very recent Ohio Bigfoot report. This one is detailed on the BFRO, or the Bigfoot Field Researchers website, where there are tons of different eyewitness reports of the elusive beast. But this is a good one to start off with because it just happened back in January of this year. On January 22nd, on a snowy afternoon in Warren County, Ohio, a family reported seeing a big creature standing near a bike path while they were driving down the road. The father of the family wrote, "As we were driving along State Route 350 towards State Route 123, south of Oregania, we came to the Loveland bike trail that runs next to the Little Miami River. As I slowed down near the bike path crossing, we looked out the passenger side of the car and saw a large black figure standing a distance up the bike path facing the river. While it was snowing, the ground was covered with at least 3 inches of snow, so it didn't appear that someone would be on the bike path biking or walking the trail. The weather was not ideal for anyone to be hunting or walking on the path at the time. The figure appeared to have come from the woods and was walking towards the river." He also described the figure as having no obvious clothing pattern, being consistently dark, and that his wife and 2 teenage children also spotted it. There have apparently been at least 9 credible sightings of a supposed Bigfoot-like creature in the same area too. Number 9, Bigfoot howls. In this video uploaded by We Do It Outdoors, we see our cameraman roaming through a forest in Lore City, Ohio. The sun is starting to set and we hear a series of strange eerie howls and tree knocks. We Do It Outdoors seems to have started as a channel about maintaining lawns, but over the last few years, there have been a number of Bigfoot related videos uploaded on there, one of which I may or may not be discussing later in the list. And whether they're real or not, some of them are pretty entertaining. We get some genuinely creepy sounds in this video. It definitely sounds like something or someone is howling in the distance. If I heard sounds like this while I was in the forest, I'd just turn right around immediately. This guy sticks around until it's like fully dark, and the sounds just get louder and louder. Real or not, it's definitely a creepy video. Number 8, the Jefferson County report. Next up, I have another report detailed on the Bigfoot Field Researchers website. This incident was reported in July of 2021, still pretty recent, in Jefferson County, Ohio. A man describes finding a large footprint in his chicken coop, as well as all of his chickens having gone missing. He's quoted saying, "On July 9th at approximately 10 a.m., I noticed my 5 chickens were missing. The chicken coop was full of feathers, but no bodies or blood. I did a perimeter check and came across an extremely large footprint. I went back to the house and brought down a tape measure to the footprint and measured it and took pictures with the tape measure beside it. The footprint measured a length that was apparently 18 inches with a width of about 9 to 10 inches. A Bigfoot investigator named Jim Thompson came to investigate the man's property and discovered more footprints that were about 4 feet apart from one another. That's about double the gait of an average person, by the way. On July 24th, a couple weeks after making his initial report, the man described hearing strange yelps coming from either end of his property, as if they were yelping back and forth to each other. And he also said that on some nights he gets an eerie feeling that something is watching him. I have that almost every night too. At number 7, we have Susan Ferenchak. Suzanne Ferenchak is a former skeptic turned Bigfoot enthusiast. After spotting a strange hairy creature near her home in Loudonville, Ohio, she had first spotted what she described as a big black-furred creature jump over the road. Not sure where said road was exactly, or what type of road it was. If it was a highway road, that would be nuts. It was just a small dirt road. Still scary, not quite as impressive though. Suzanne has recorded audio of what she believes to be a Sasquatch while out in the wilderness near her home, and has shared the 2-minute clip online. I gave it a listen. The quality, not great, but it's definitely eerie. You hear this distant howling. It definitely doesn't sound like a wolf. You also get some classic, whoops in there too, which a lot of Bigfoot researchers describe Sasquatches, making. Whether it's a genuine Bigfoot or not, I really just dig supposed Bigfoot audio. I just imagine being out alone in the woods at night and hearing some distant wail and whooping, and human or not, I mean, it'd be pretty bone-chilling. All right, now I'm going to share the last report from the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. At least for this video anyway, there are tons on the site. This one was reported in Mahoning County, Ohio in July of 2021. Sorry if I'm messing up the pronunciation there. A man had described seeing a strange creature one evening after returning home with his wife, and is quoted as saying, "Tonight, yet another sighting by our pond. My wife and I were at dinner, and as we arrived home about 8:30 p.m., a large, fast, gray and silver, light brown, covered in fur Bigfoot darted from the bushes in our front into the cattails in our pond on all fours. We both looked at each other and said, 'Did you just see that?' The subject was down low and bent in the middle as it moved. Unlike a dog, its undulating movement was not as fluid as a dog. It was not a bear. It appeared to be from 4 to 5 feet at the back and torso built like a barrel. When it went into the cattails, we were no longer able to see it." Number 5, the 1992 Grassman sighting. Grassman is again the name often given to the big ape-like creature or creatures that so many Ohio locals have spotted. And in this video, taken in eastern Ohio in 1992 by a man named Don Keating, he had spotted what looked like a large hairy creature walking into the forest. He managed to capture it on camera, and though the footage is very grainy and he was a fair distance away from it, there is definitely something walking into the forest. It's not the most convincing video evidence. It's hard to tell what you're looking at, but I do always find something eerie about old 90s VHS footage, and Keating seems to believe he saw some kind of large cryptid. So this video was featured on Monster Quest and features an interview with Keating describing what he saw and that he was a skeptic before this encounter. I always like it when they say they were skeptics before, because, you know, it's a bit more convincing that way. At number 4, we have the famous Minerva monster case. Back in 1978, a family living in Minerva, Ohio, reported what they believed to be a large Bigfoot-esque cryptid around their home. The Cattail family reported rocks being thrown at their home by the creature and would spot large footprints in their backyard. But there are other reports of a mysterious creature in the area around the same time. The Cattail's neighbor also spotted the big hairy creature, as well as other residents of the area. The case became known as the Minerva Monster Case and gained rather significant media attention at the time. A former Stark County sheriff named Jim Shannon, who had responded to one of the Cattail family's reports, is quoted as saying, "They were terrified. I will always believe them. They saw something. It's just, what did they see?" This case has become the subject of a 2015 documentary called Minerva Monster, directed by Seth Breedlove, who we might be talking about in a bit. Next up, we have Mark DeWerth. Mark DeWerth is a Ohio Bigfoot investigator who has collected a fair amount of evidence in the 30 years he's spent on the hunt. He's got footprints, audio recordings, and of course his first-hand encounter, which was the catalyst for his research. The story is he'd been exploring an old strip mine in search of badger dens, was followed out by something which soon stood up and looked at him, a big bipedal hairy creature. If that happened to me, I would not go looking for the creature again. I would move out of Ohio the next morning probably. Thought of an 8-foot tall hairy beast roaming through the woods has always been kind of creepy to me, but having one stare at you in a cave, imagine looking through a cave thinking all you're gonna see that day is maybe some badgers, and then you're met with an 8-foot tall hairy ape man glaring at you. Only I'm allowed to find badgers in this cave. Whether the story is true or not, definitely a terrifying image. A video shared by Spectrum News shows Mark talking to several residents of Warren County, Ohio about his experience with this elusive creature, as well as hearing some of their first-hand accounts. He plays an audio recording, which sounds, again, pretty creepy. I love me some Bigfoot audio recordings. Anyway, Mark DeWerth has been interviewed on tons of podcasts discussing his Sasquatch experiences, so seek those out if you're interested. And at number 2, we have the Seth Breedlove encounter. Seth Breedlove is a filmmaker who's gone on to shoot a series called The Bigfoot Project, which you can find on a YouTube channel called Small Town Monsters. Before he had his first encounter, Seth described himself as a skeptic. In a YouTube video uploaded by Ed Ballant, Seth recounts the time he first encountered what he believes to be a Bigfoot. Seth had been riding down the countryside of Minerva, Ohio, when he spotted what looked to be a large bipedal creature with brown hair running through a clearing on a hill about 50 yards away. And it was fast, clearing the space in less than a second. One of the things that really stuck out to Seth most was the creature's very noticeable musculature, especially in the bicep area. Listening to Seth talk, he doesn't sound like he genuinely believes what he saw. He doesn't seem like he's making anything up on the spot or anything. Whether it was indeed the missing link or something more benign, he definitely did see something. And coming in at our number 1 spot is the Salt Fork footage. This video, once again uploaded by the YouTube channel We Do It Outdoors, is only 10 minutes long, but there's a lot going on with this one. So 2 men were exploring Salt Fork State Park in eastern Ohio, and after hearing some strange noises, they happened to capture footage of what looks to be a large bipedal hairy animal. We have a few different pieces of evidence in this video. We have handheld footage of the creature moving through the trees. We have some drone footage, lots of sounds too. It's a very meaty video. Now, could it be a big guy in a suit? Look, it can always be a big guy in a suit, but I gotta say, if it is a suit, it's not a bad one. It's pretty good. It looks like it has some bulk to it. It doesn't look like just one of those generic gorilla suits you can pick up at Spirit Halloween. And what I like here is that the footage is clear. He's not relying on shaking the camera around or making the video extra grainy to try and obscure the image. And just for those reasons alone, I like this video, even if it isn't real. We also hear some vocalizations going on here, so like I said, it's just a lot happening. Check this one out over at We Do It Outdoors.
Stenson Parker and his wife Shannon recently took a trip through Colorado to celebrate their 10th anniversary. They boarded the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad and saw something unexpected. Bigfoot. Now the video, which was taken by a fellow passenger and posted online by Stenson, shows a tall, brownish creature walking and squatting before it blends into its surroundings. Now the footage is zoomed in, making for a grainy video. Now to him, Stenson said, the creature didn't look like a human, it didn't move like a person, he said. It looked more like an ape, but it didn't walk like an ape so much. He added that the creature's arms seemed too long to be human, with hands reaching down to its knees. It didn't look like anything I've ever seen before, he said. I don't think it was a hoax, and if it was a really good one. Up next, we have the Mississippi Woods sighting. A video that has resurfaced and gone viral seemingly shows a Sasquatch moving through the Mississippi woods. It was recorded and posted on YouTube back in 2015 by Josh Highcliffe. In the caption, Josh wrote, "I was out hunting hogs and wearing hunting camo and just sitting dead still waiting for it to get dark, and I hear a noise behind the tree I was sitting on. I thought it was the hogs, and when I got around I could not believe my own eyes." He added there was this huge black thing crouched by a dead cypress about 50 yards away. I saw these shoulders and a head upright with hands. It looked like it was digging out a stump. My first instinct was to run. I did not even think of shooting. Then I know no one will believe me, but it was like everything slowed down. I was scared. I took my iPhone and started videotaping it. I heard a truck driving down the road and the thing stood up. I was trying to be dead quiet, and when it stood up, I could not control myself and ran. The stump was huge, and I guess the sucker was 7 feet tall. I am a hunter, and I'm pretty darn good at guessing size. Wow, that is crazy. Now let's discuss the Owen Sound sighting. Ryan Willis and Joel Porter co-host a TV show called Sasquatch University, where they've got incredible sightings in Owen Sound. They started the Trent University Sasquatch Society, which zooms in scientists and others to talk to the Peterborough Club, hearing from all the top researchers in the Bigfoot community, said Willis, who is president. They've received reports, and quite credible ones too, which they thought would make a good episode for the show, he said. Now their hunt was to be conducted just 4 minutes west of Owen Sound, where the encounter happened, Willis said. One had a road crossing sighting, and it was like behind a sign at the other side of the road. It didn't actually cross the road, clarified Porter. Now the beast must have been 11 feet tall, given it was reported peeking over a 9 or 10 foot sign. Now a separate local sighting came from someone who viewed the big fellow through a window, Porter added. Now they weren't able to capture it on video, but they said they are determined to capture the proof. Moving on to the Provo Canyon sighting. There are many Bigfoot videos on YouTube, but one particular clip is from Provo Canyon, Utah. The video appears to show a large black animal hunched over in the trees, possibly feeding or foraging. Now the camera zooms in to try to get a closer look, and a few seconds later the great creature stands up on its 2 legs as if it's bipedal. Now the video was posted on October 30th, 2012, and has amassed more than 7.6 million views on YouTube. Now according to the account uploader, the pair were on a camping trip hoping to get a closer look at a deer on a hill. On our way up, we thought we saw a bear, until the monster stood up and looked right at us. We ran straight to the car after that, leaving our tent and everything behind. It's probably all still up there. Now we have the Minnesota Bigfoot. In October of 2023, there was a Bigfoot sighting in Minnesota. The people who saw it said this: "While my mother and I were grouse hunting up by Benna on 6 Mile Lake Road in the Mud Goose Management area, we both witnessed a Bigfoot. We were traveling and my mom said, 'Whoa, back up.' Down trail 2266 near the bend, we see a Bigfoot off the trail in the grassy ditch, and it slowly moved off the trail west to east. My mom asked me if it felt like it moved in super slow motion. I concurred. The ditch at the site was 3 feet down, and the grass at the side of the trail was 3 feet tall, and the upper torso was 3 to 4 feet showing above the grass, leading the Bigfoot to be approximately 8 to 10 feet tall. We drove to to the spot and both noticed a strong sulfur or rotting vegetation. When I got out of the car, I immediately felt all the hair stand up on my body. I checked for any sign of footprints on the road, and I cannot see any due to the gravel being very packed down. There was a small bit of gravel disturbed in one spot near the west side of the road shoulder. We later got stopped by the conservation officer, and when we mentioned what we had seen and where it was, he remarked that's where people have reported seeing a Bigfoot. My mother and I have no doubt that we saw one. Now let's talk about the Tennessee Bigfoot. In 2022, a man filmed what is believed to be Bigfoot in Tennessee. Footage shows a huge black creature with super long arms moving about in a wooded area. Now, as ever with these things, the footage isn't exactly the clearest, but there's definitely some weird creature hanging around there. According to Bigfoot Input, the man said he first thought it was a friend playing a prank, but once he saw the length of its arms and how it moved from tree to tree, he quickly grabbed his daughter and ran back inside. He said he got out one of his weapons and a dog and went back outside, but the creature had gone. Now, the video has been shared on social media where it's gotten people baffled and questioning what it could be. One person said, "What gets me is how it grabs one tree and then stretches the other arm to grab the other. I've heard of that before. Long arms, and I noticed the broad shoulders that you'll see a Bigfoot having that a hunter in a suit does not have." Now, everyone was convinced it was Bigfoot, and I say, I have to agree. To start off, Florida Bigfoot is our next sighting. To start off the new year in 2017, a man claimed to have spotted Bigfoot. A fisherman claimed to have seen and photographed Bigfoot while it allegedly sat in a feet of the murky, swampy Hillsborough River outside of Tampa, Florida. Then, on January 25th, Matthew McCamey and his friend claimed to have seen Bigfoot while canoeing in a swamp that day in Lettuce Lake Park near Tampa, Florida. Now, perhaps they saw the same Bigfoot who was just roaming the area. Now, the two men took a canoe into one of the many swampy inlets of Lettuce Lake Park, and around 1 p.m. they heard a noise accompanied by tree movement. Matthew grabbed his phone and started videotaping. Initially, it was exciting, and it was like, "Oh, is that a bear? That's pretty cool," he said. When we moved up closer, it started to look less and less like a bear. You could tell he was slapping the water, and it looked like maybe he was grabbing something. At the time, I was just thinking, holy sh, what the hell is this? He said that his friend was so shaken by the experience that he still won't talk about it. Now, at one point in the video, the friend moved one of the canoe paddles, making a noise, which seemed to catch the attention of the hairy individual in the swamp. Matthew added, "Where the video cut off is basically where I stopped taping. We wanted to leave, and I couldn't do both video and row." Moving on to the California Bigfoot. In 2001, a youth group was camping in the Marble Mountain Wilderness, California, when their leader, Jim Mills, noticed a strange-looking creature sulking along a ridge nearby. He believed it was Bigfoot and filmed it for nearly 7 minutes, making the somewhat grainy footage the longest footage of an alleged Bigfoot sighting. The video shows Bigfoot walking down a hill, and some think this video is legit and is one of the longest known Bigfoot videos ever captured before. The video has been considered legitimate and has not been tampered with. What makes this video interesting is there were multiple witnesses, but everyone in the video is shockingly calm though, which is just like crazy to me. Now, it's unknown if this youth group returned back to this location or if anyone else was brought in to investigate there, and officially, if evidence was documented, it might have been quietly swept under the rug. Next up, we have the Canada sighting. In 2022, a video shared on the YouTube channel of the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RSMO, shows what they claim is yet another in a long line of Bigfoot sightings. This particular footage, taken by boaters in northern Ontario, Canada, doesn't come with a lot of details. There's been a lot of Bigfoot activity in Ontario, Canada recently, and there's also a long history of Bigfoot sightings in this wild remote area recently, the person from RMSO says in the video. We have seen a lot of photos and videos of Bigfoot in the area, and here is one of the latest Bigfoot sightings captured by some boaters. Now, the commenters truly believe that the evidence is real. The ease of walking up the rocky pile and subsequent gait afterwards is not how a human walks. Very compelling, one viewer wrote. "Wow, he is huge, looks to be 8 or 10 feet tall. Scary just watching this," commented another. And last on our list, we have the traffic cam Bigfoot. Bigfoot. A Washington Department of Transportation traffic camera near Sherman Pass captured Bigfoot standing in the snow in January 2020. Sasquatch spotted, the WSDOT Twitter account tweeted, along with 3 circled and zoomed in photos. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. The WSDOT employee points out that there appears to be something in the bottom left part of the frame. It looks like a person-shaped figure silhouetted against an evergreen tree. Might be Sasquatch, the tweet says. We will leave that up to you. Now, one image shows the figure circled in red, and the tweet also says that the photos were captured on State Road 20 Sherman Pass, a route that winds its way through the forested Cascade Mountains in the northeastern part of the state. The spot is about 70 kilometers south of the Canada-US border in Grand Forks, BC. Now, I'm sure Bigfoot didn't realize that there was a traffic cam there, and hopefully he's more careful.
Starting us off today, we have 2 campers, Jan and Larry, who claim to have been attacked by Bigfoot while out camping. Like James maybe one day. The pair had encountered another group of campers, some of which had claimed to have seen Bigfoot in the area on previous occasions, including the night before. Around midnight, all the campers went back to their respective tents. Jan and Larry had just zipped up their own tent when they began hearing footsteps coming from the bushes. Before Larry had the chance to check out where the noise was coming from, the sides of his tent began to shake. The Bigfoot was attacking them, aggressively clawing, scratching, pushing, and pulling at the tent. Eventually it moved on, but Jan and Larry will never forget that day. The pair claimed that there are 7 separate Bigfoots living in the area, and they've actually seen and heard the creature on separate occasions too. And they were able to capture photos of the Sasquatch's tracks. The name of the campsite was not disclosed, but the incident happened somewhere in Wisconsin, so do with that information what you will.
This next case comes out of Colorado. So back in 2015, a couple were driving on a desolate road late at night when they felt something bump into their car. They backed up a bit to see what they'd hit, praying that it wasn't a person, but they never expected to see what they saw. They spotted a dark shape on the road, looking like it could have been a bear. They pulled out a phone and started filming their rear view camera, and this is what they captured. Now, whatever this thing is, it's only on camera briefly, but pausing and taking a look at the thing fully upright, rushing towards the car, it looks pretty big. It's hard to get a sense of how big it is because it's pretty far away, but looks to be taking up quite a big part of that one lane, and it looks fairly tall. What do you guys think though? Sasquatch, dude in a costume, a bear that's maybe learned to move like a human? Let us know down in the comments.
Next up, we have Teddy Roosevelt's retelling of a Bigfoot encounter as told to him by a German hunter named Baumann. The hunter Baumann, along with his friend, had gone out into the remote section of the Montana wilderness with one goal: to trap beavers. The men were likely the only hunters in the woods at the time because, as a general rule of thumb, hunters tended to avoid the area after a fellow trapper had been found mauled in the woods a few months prior. Baumann and his friends did not care. They set up camp and went out to lay their traps, but when they returned to their campsite, it was ransacked. Thinking the mess had been left by a bear, the two didn't really think much of it. Bowman began cooking dinner, and his partner left to investigate some tracks they'd seen. They were massive, and it was clear the creature had been walking on 2 legs. When the pair eventually settled into their tents for the night, they were weary, and rightfully so. They were awakened by an awful smell and the sound of branches breaking around their tent. The following day, the men decided to leave the area. Bowman went to gather the beaver traps while his partner packed up the camp. But when Bowman returned to the campsite, he was greeted by a horrific scene. His friend's body was laid out across the ground with a broken neck and bite marks all over. Bowman knew his friend was dead, and so he hightailed it out of there and lived to tell the tale.
Our next story comes to us from a deleted Reddit user who described their first-hand encounter with what they believe was a Sasquatch. The story goes as follows. So I was on this solo hike near a remote trail in the forest of Oregon. It was a beautiful day, sunny with a hint of a cool breeze, perfect for exploring nature. I've been on this trail before, but today something felt off from the get-go. About an hour into my hike, I started hearing these loud whooping sounds echoing through the trees. At first I brushed it off as some animal calls or maybe even other hikers goofing around, but the thing is, the sound was so intense, almost like they were coming from multiple directions at once. As I kept walking, the whoops turned into something more unsettling. They sounded closer, for one. Then I heard the snapping of branches coming from up the slope, like someone or something was trudging through the underbrush nearby. I stopped in my tracks, trying to listen more closely. That's when I saw rocks being hurled down from above. Luckily, I wasn't near or close enough for them to hit me. Now my fight or flight was kicking in. I couldn't see anything through the thick foliage, but whatever was making those noises was definitely close. My heart was pounding in my chest. I turned around and booked it. I didn't catch a glimpse of whatever was out there, but I can tell you it was the most terrifying experience I've ever had while hiking.
Next up, we have the Bigfoot attacks in the Valley of the Headless Man, which is actually in Canada. The attacks began in 1908. The bodies of 2 headless men appeared in the river of the valley. In 1945, another corpse was found, headless again, and years later a man was found in his sleeping bag, again with no head. While this might seem like the work of some senseless killer, it's important to note that natives in the area fled the land a few years prior to the first deaths, and other native tribes have actively avoided the lands for centuries. Perhaps they knew something those poor men who lost their heads didn't. Many people who have visited the area reported finding large bipedal animal tracks, hearing loud roars and breaking branches, and smelling sulfur and rotten fish, despite being quite far off from the riverbeds. All telltale signs that Bigfoot is near.
Next on the list is the Portlock Bigfoot attacks. Portlock is an abandoned town in Alaska, and as for why it's abandoned, there are a few explanations, one of which has to do with reported attacks of giant hairy ape-like creatures. So in the 40s, the small community of Portlock, Alaska, had a string of unsettling incidents. Doll sheep hunters were disappearing, grisly discoveries of dismembered bodies were being found in the lagoon, and reports were coming in about encounters with an entity known locally as Nantinak, Bigfoot. There have been tales about Bigfoot, or Big Feet, as Hannah refers to them as, in Alaska for decades, and many still believe it's these creatures that caused the town to be abandoned. By 1949, the community of Portlock had dropped as residents left for neighboring villages. Residents have come out with tales of encountering enormous footprints, spotting a towering, hairy figure lurking in the woods, and discovering mutilated bodies of those who ventured into the wilderness.
Next up, we have an anonymous story that was shared with SasquatchChronicles.com by a UK woman who was visiting California on business when she stumbled upon something wild. Well, actually 2 something wilds, because believe it or not, while on a hike, the woman had walked right into the path of 2 massive Bigfoots. At first, she assumed that what she was looking at were some kind of mountain lions, but when the creature stood up on 2 feet, she realized that wasn't the case. These animals were easily over 7 feet tall. They were working together to collect seaweed. They were like eating the roots and then rubbing the seaweed on their fur. I don't know. They were by the waterway where the woman had been hiking. The woman pulled out her camera to snap a few photos, but before she could, the cover on her camera lens fell and it made its way down to where the animals had been. The larger of the 2 was furious. He began charging at the woman, and she thought for sure that these were her last moments, but the smaller of the 2 intervened. The 2 screeched at each other for a while, almost like they were speaking in some kind of gibberish language, before they retreated back to the woods. The woman somehow made her way quickly back to her car. She really can't remember the walk there. She was so dazed, but she feels lucky to be alive. However, she regrets not getting that photograph.
Next on the list, we have the Ape Canyon case. So this incident from 1924 is a tale from the Pacific Northwest of the United States that's become one of the most famous Sasquatch sightings in cryptozoology circles. According to the story, a group of miners claimed to have encountered a group of large, almost 7-foot tall, hairy, ape-like creatures in the vicinity of Mount St. Helens in Washington. The incident supposedly took place in Ape Canyon, which is what it's now called. A group of miners led by Fred Beck claimed to have been attacked by these mysterious creatures. Beck and his companions said that they had shot at the creatures in self-defense after being pelted with rocks, and later a bunch of these hairy creatures retaliated by attacking their cabin. The miners went outside the following day to find giant-sized footprints in the ground. Some believe the creatures described by Beck and his group were
Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, or Big Feet, while others think it was all just a big, elaborate hoax.
What is the plural of Bigfoot, you guys? Let me know in the comments. Next up, we have the attack of the folk monster. That's not a swear word, that's the name of the monster. And don't come for me, but it's basically Arkansas's version of Bigfoot, or Arkansas, as James would say. The folk monster, also known as the Boggy Creek monster or the swamp stalker, is a massive bipedal ape-like creature with massive feet and a foul smell. Sound familiar? Exactly. In the spring of 1971, two young couples moved into the town of Folk, Arkansas, and rented a small house near a creek. It wasn't long before the couples noticed something wasn't right. They would often hear heavy footsteps coming from their front porch, and one night it seemed as though some kind of animal was attempting to gain access to their home. As the days went on, the pairs would often find massive three-toed footprints in the area around their house, and then one evening they saw the creatures, massive, shaggy, smelly, standing tall on 2 feet. The creature again attempted to gain entry to the couple's homes, but one of the men fired at the creature, causing it to turn on the other man, who was badly injured and required medical attention after the ordeal. The police got involved but were unable to locate the massive animal, and this event actually marks the only medically documented attack by a cryptid on a human in North America. So, it's legit, you guys.
Next we have more footage of a Bigfoot chasing a car, this time in Russia. Now, I say Bigfoot, there's a very good chance it's just a dude in a costume, or just some crazy person chasing the car, because it's that low quality of a video, like pretty much all Sasquatch videos are. So the footage was taken in 2016, and we see someone filming the side of a rural road with their phone camera. The people already sound frantic, like they've seen something before they started filming. Then you see this dark figure start ambling towards the car, and they drive off. But then they decide to stop the car and try to see if they can get a good shot of the creature again. Take a look.
Он бежит. Лёша, кто закрыл?
It has been around for hundreds of years. Now, some people think this is just a new phenomenon that has been made up, but there have been Bigfoot sightings and reportings for hundreds of years. It first started in Canada as early as 1884, when the British colonists, a newspaper in Victoria, Canada, published an account of a gorilla-type creature captured in the area. Other accounts followed, according to the Canadian Encyclopedia. Sasquatch book author John Green compiled a list of 1,340 sightings through the 19th and 20th centuries. Now, the fact that this has been around for years and years makes me question people's doubts. Number 9. Face to face with the beast. Lawyer Matt Moneymaker lives in Dana Point in Southern California, and in his spare time he leads the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, which is a network of more than 3,000 people who claim to have seen the Sasquatch. In the woods of eastern Ohio, he claims he finally came eye to eye with it. He recounted this story, saying, "It was 2 o'clock in the morning and the moon was a quarter full. Suddenly, there he was, an 8-foot tall creature standing 15 feet away, growling at me. He wanted me to know that I was in the wrong place." Now, although he leads the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, no one from the organization has been able to snap a clear picture of the beast. Everyone there has their own experience with Bigfoot though. Number 8. Whitehall Trail. In 1976, multiple witnesses, including local police and a New York State trooper, said they saw a man-like beast standing over 7 to 8 feet tall and covered with hair. A blurry photo was taken from a Whitehall trail cam in 2010, and it is among hundreds of reported Bigfoot sightings across the state. Whitehall has its own Bigfoot event, the Sasquatch Calling Festival, with a competition for the best Bigfoot calls to attract the elusive animal. Bigfoot has reportedly been sighted in many other places, including Washington State in 2020, which kept the hope alive for the enthusiasts across the US. A Mayville, New York resident, Peter Weimer, told WGRZ that he's heard from 45 eyewitnesses who claim to have seen the Sasquatch in the area around Chautauqua Lake, located 60 miles south of Buffalo. There are 100 or more witnesses in Chautauqua County that aren't talking to me, Peter told the TV station. Now, according to WGRZ, the county is packed with dense forests and deep gorges where a large large animal could live but rarely be seen, like the black bear. Peter, who sponsors the annual Chautauqua Lake Bigfoot Expo event for believers and fans, says footprints seen in nearby Asheville, New York are further evidence that Sasquatch is out there. Number 7. Vocalizations. Alleged vocalizations such as howls, screams, moans, grunts, whistles, and even a form of supposed language have been reported and allegedly recorded from Bigfoot. Some of these alleged vocalization recordings have been analyzed by individuals such as retired US Navy cryptologic linguistic Scott Nelson. He analyzed audio recordings from the early 1970s said to be recorded in the Sierra Nevada mountains dubbed the Sierra Sounds. When speaking about his findings, he said, "It's definitely a language, it's definitely not in human origin, and it could not have been faked." So yeah, they have their own language we choose to ignore. Number 6. Footprints. Investigator Jimmy Chilcutt of the Conroe Police Department in Texas, who specializes in finger and footprints, has analyzed more than 150 casts of Bigfoot prints that Meldrum, the Idaho State professor, keeps in a laboratory. Jim says one footprint found in 1987 in Walla Walla in Washington State has convinced him that Bigfoot is real. He said, "The ridge flow pattern and the texture was completely different from anything I've seen. It certainly wasn't human and of no known primate that I've examined. The print ridges flowed lengthwise along the foot, unlike human prints which flow across. The texture of the ridges was about twice the thickness of a human, which indicated that this animal has a real thick skin." Now, number 5. Bigfoot-like creature found. Showman Frank Hansen exhibited the Iceman, a Bigfoot-like creature encased in ice at the International Livestock Exposition in Chicago. This relic of the Ice Age was found in the waters off Siberia. In December 1968, Bernard Hillevmans of Royal Institute of Natural Sciences of Belgium examined the creature in a trailer in Minnesota. They said, "We consider this to be a genuine and unique example of the most priceless specimen." In a scientific journal, Bernard declared that he discovered a new species of man. In April 1969, the Smithsonian appealed to the FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover for help. Hoover declined, citing the absence of a violation of a federal law within our investigation jurisdiction. It's reported that the US Customs would look into it, the body. After all, it was supposedly imported. Meanwhile, Frank put a model of the specimen on display. Number 4. Bigfoot video. The most famous Bigfoot video is a short film taken in 1967 by Roger Patterson and Bob Gilman, known as the Patterson film. Shot in Bluff Creek, the video shows what appears to be a large and hairy bipedal ape, or Bigfoot, striding through a clearing. The video's authenticity is still debated, with some thinking it was likely a hoax, with the ape-like figure just a human wearing a costume. Despite this, it is seen as one of the most compelling photographic evidence of Bigfoot. It appears to document a female Bigfoot striding along a riverbank in Northern California, and it certainly wasn't human. Number 3. Suing the government over Bigfoot. Todd Standing claims his first close encounter with Bigfoot was in 2005, and that it dramatically changed his life. The filmmaker and wilderness guide from Edmonton says he saw a 9-foot-tall bipedal creature with a very human-like face high up in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. He says he saw it stand up and squat down. His video of the sighting, posted on YouTube, has more than 300,000 views, and he is suing the provincial government of BC in an effort to prove the existence of Bigfoot in court. He says that provincial wildlife officials are turning a blind eye to his findings. His lawsuit calls for a judge to declare that Sasquatch exists and for a wildlife official to accompany him on a 3-month hunt for one of the creatures. He said, "I've seen Sasquatch so many times, I mean over 50 times. I filmed them 8 different times." He claims fish and wildlife officials are deliberately ignoring his findings, which do not include any actual specimens, living or dead. They won't look into the evidence, so that's why he must go to court to prove it. Number 2. A Bigfoot study. A Bigfoot study called the Sasquatch Genome Project was led by genetic scientists. It was a 5-year study and took almost $500,000 to fund. The group followed a mother and daughter Bigfoot in Kentucky, and they claim there's thousands of them in the USA. The group captured videos and photos as evidence, but they also acquired DNA. The DNA has given them a theory that this creature is a hybrid of human. The DNA was sent to UT Southwestern, New York University, and North Louisiana Crime Lab. The results came back as human, but others did not. The scientists say whether you want to accept it or not, they have found proof that Sasquatch is a human relative that arose approximately 15,000 years ago as a hybrid cross of a modern Homo sapiens with an unknown primate species. The group called for this to be recognized officially, saying the government at all levels must recognize them as indigenous people and immediately protect their human and constitutional rights against those who would see in their physical and cultural differences a license to hunt, trap, or kill them. And number 1, the FBI got involved. An Oregon man intent on proving the existence of a mythical creature known as Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Abominable Snowman, and Yeti in 1976 managed to get the FBI to test hair and tissue samples that he believed might help his case, according to newly released records. The FBI has analyzed hair in connection with the search for Sasquatch, aka Bigfoot. An internal FBI memo noted in February 1977 said, "The man who spurred the analysis, 93-year-old Peter Brine, told CNBC that he hasn't given up hope proving that Bigfoot is real, if exceedingly rare creature." FBI agent wrote back to Peter saying, "We will examine the hairs and tissue mentioned in your letter." It was the first time that the FBI apparently tested a sample of hair to see if it was Bigfoot, according to the records, which contained photocopied images of the hairs. The FBI said the examination of the hair concluded a study of morphological characteristics such as root structure, medullary structure, and cuticle thickness in addition to scale casts. Also, the hairs were compared directly with hairs of known origin under a comparison microscope. At the end of all that, it was concluded as a result of these examinations that the hairs are of deer family origin. The hair sample you submitted is being returned as enclosed in this letter, it said. Was it really deer hair, or were they covering up the fact that it actually was Bigfoot? The fact that they even tested the hair is insane.
Want more videos like this one? Well, be sure to click this video next. It's about real UFOs that we have reverse technologies. It's no surprise how advanced our civilization has come in the last 50 years. Click the video now to find out more.